WINS, WINS-FM in HD1 New York.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
More people get their news from 1010 Wins than from any other radio station in the nation. Sarah Milano is at the editor's desk, and I'm Ashok Kabbalah.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM, New York.
Good afternoon. About 20 degrees outside at 4 o'clock. I'm Donna Vaughn. And here's what's happening. Well, at least it's not snow, but we have another cold weather advisory in effect. AccuWeather drops by shortly for a live update on a brutal forecast. A car crash on Long Island this morning has left a Nassau County police officer dead, killed in a collision with an alleged drunk driver that blew a red light. A deal to quickly end yet another government shutdown only includes temporary funding for Homeland Security. The two recent deaths in Minnesota have Democrats demanding changes. The 7 people on board a fishing boat missing off the coast of Massachusetts are now presumed lost. The search has been called off. And remember the Chia Pet? The rights to the novelty item with the catchy jingle that caught on a few decades ago has been snapped up by Hollywood and will apparently be turned into an animated TV show or movies, perhaps. Well, the Rangers playing a day game in Pittsburgh. Then tonight, the Islanders and Predators skate at UBS while the Devils are at Ottawa. AccuWeather calling for a brisk evening, low 14 under cloudy skies. Wins News Time 4:01. Let's get you where you need to go with Andre Farrow.
And we got a call from Kevin on the 1010 Wins traffic tip line, 844-JAM-1010. He says he's a long-term listener. Appreciate that, Kevin. And he's sitting in that delay on the eastbound cross Bronx. Yeah, that's a crash right around Webster Avenue as you travel eastbound. A couple of lanes are knocked out there, and that's what's causing the delay at the inbound George Washington Bridge, trying to get across the span there. So don't blame it on the George, blame it on the cross Bronx. But whoever you're blaming it on, it's going to be a tough ride trying to get to the New York side right now. Outbound is wide open at the George Washington Bridge. Then we also got a call from John. He's over in Rockland County. I was talking about that crash over on the southbound side of the Palisades exit 10 as you make your way southbound heading down towards 287. A couple of lanes are knocked out there. Thank you, John, for checking in. Appreciate that. Inbound Lincoln and Holland are around 15 minutes both inbound. Both outbound are in good shape, but we have a big problem on the western spur. We have an overturned vehicle southbound as you pass MetLife Stadium and south of Route 3. That's also causing some northbound rubbernecking delays. Go with the eastern spur. It's not perfect, but you will deal with some southbound delays on the eastern spur passing Route 3. But again, that's way better than dealing with the western spur right now in front of MetLife Stadium and heading north or south passing Route 3. Andre Farrow, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
Well, a cold weather advisory to start off the weekend today with some glacial temperatures around the tri-state this afternoon. AccuWeather meteorologist Brian Thompson bringing us up to speed in this live report. Brian?
Yeah, Donna, it's been another cold day, although the one advantage we've had this afternoon is we've had very little wind. The wind has been pretty calm through the afternoon, but it's not going to stay that way as we head into tonight. The wind is going to pick up. The big storm that we've been talking about all week that's going to pass by to our east and really miss us as far as snow goes is going to continue to bring the threat for wind. So the wind is going to start to pick up this evening. You'll notice it a little bit more. And by tomorrow, winds could be gusting 35 to 40 miles per hour. So AccuWeather real field temperatures by late tonight, 0 to 10 below. And real field temps tomorrow, no better than the single digits, despite highs pretty similar to what we've seen today, which are in the mid-20s. And then we should see some relief, and maybe we start to see some melting by Monday and Tuesday as temperatures get close to the freezing mark, and we'll see more in the way of sunshine as well. Donna?
Oh, Brian, now earlier in the week, we thought we might get a ton of more snow this weekend. Thankfully, the coastal storm tracked too far east for that, but other parts of the nation haven't been so lucky with their weather this week, like down south.
In Georgia, road crews in Augusta are preparing for the worst. Eastern Georgia expects its most significant snowfall in at least a decade. Trucks working nonstop since yesterday morning, loaded with salt and brine. New York and Philadelphia at the brink of the longest stretch of sub-freezing days in 8 years.
Correspondent Christiane Cordero, 3 more cold weather deaths reported here in the city, bringing the total to 13 in the past week, many of them homeless. Over 100 total deaths across the nation, over half of those in Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana. The city is still digging out from the last storm days ago, since frigid temps haven't allowed much of any of it to melt since then. Hundreds of sanitation workers still on the job getting it all cleared away. Well, an off-duty car crash near a mall on Long Island has killed a Nassau County police officer, and the other driver is now charged with DWI. 42-year-old officer Patricia Espinosa was off duty when it happened on Wisconsin Highway in St. James. Suffolk police say a Chevy pickup truck plowed into her car right outside the Smith Haven Mall. At the wheel of that pickup truck was 20-year-old Matthew Smith of Hauppauge. He and his passenger were also hurt, though their injuries aren't life-threatening, and Smith was later charged with drunk driving. A statement from Nassau County Exec Bruce Blakeman says Officer Espinosa was assigned to the 5th Precinct in Elmont, and both her brother and husband are also police officers. He's ordered the flags in the county to be flown at half-staff in her honor. Well, after nearly 5 decades of tough laws for street vendors here in the 5 boroughs, the measures are about to be loosened.
In the 70s and 80s under Mayor Ed Koch, tight street vendor regulations were born. Decades later, a shift.
Thousands of street vendors super excited about seeing this reform package passing.
Mohammed Ataya there, managing director for the Street Vendor Project. Now that bill set to grant thousands of street vendors licenses.
The street vendors have been seeking the recognition as small businesses. They want the city to offer them the licenses and permits they need to operate their business in a lawful way.
But their wishes shut down by former Mayor Eric Adams.
It was really disappointing.
The bill also mandates inspections, training, and cleanliness requirements. Amanda Alexander, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
A man's body found inside an apartment in Queens, and now investigators suspect foul play. The 59-year-old victim was discovered just after 2:30 yesterday afternoon in Far Rockaway. Police say the man had trauma to his head and face. He was pronounced dead at the scene. He hasn't been identified yet. An autopsy will be performed to determine the cause of death. Well, it's not expected to last more than a few days this time, but another shutdown of the federal government began at midnight. The Senate has already passed a package that would reopen most of the government through the end of its fiscal year this September, except for Homeland Security.
It was a Friday night breakthrough.
The yeas are 71, the nays are 29. The bill as amended has passed.
Just hours before the deadline, the Senate passed 5 bills to ensure most of the government is funded through September. And they agreed to fund the Department of Homeland Security for just 2 weeks, buying time to negotiate new rules for immigration and customs enforcement.
Correspondent Caitlin Huey Burns. Now, only a week ago, it looked like the budget was on track to pass before last night's deadline. But Democrats pulled their support after the death of Alex Preddy and the many videos of his final moments that show the ICU nurse was only taking video and not being violent. Now, Democrats are pushing for major changes for immigration agents, like prohibiting them from wearing masks, requiring body cameras, and holding agents to the same use of force standards that local and state police have to follow. Well, the search is over for 7 people on board a commercial fishing boat that sank off the coast of Massachusetts yesterday. The Coast Guard has called off the search.
Lily Jean was returning to its home port of Gloucester, America's oldest seaport, in a town familiar with tragedy. It was the home port of the Andrea Gale, lost in 1991, the inspiration for the perfect storm. Governor Maura Healey said Friday fishing is a dangerous industry.
Sons and fathers and daughters leave early in the morning, and there's no telling what's going to happen on any given day.
The Lily Jean, captained by a 5th-generation fisherman, did not transmit a mayday call. Brian Clark, ABC News.
And before the search was called off, rescuers located a debris field near where the boat was last believed to be, along with a body in the water. It is currently about 20 degrees, and we have a little bit of sunshine. We get to traffic and the full AccuWeather forecast right after this. Okay, so not a great season for the Nets, even though one of its rookies is on fire with the three-pointers. We'll have more on that just ahead. But first, Wins News Time for 11. Let's get you where you need to go with Andre Ferro.
Let's go around the horn. It was a light traffic day, and then just a couple accidents started popping up left and right. We have a southbound crash on the Palisades in Rockland County right around exit 10. A couple of lanes are knocked out, a few cars involved there. So it's slow southbound as you make your way down towards 287 in the thruway. Now, if you're using the eastbound Northern State Parkway on Long Island, here's what we see on Long Island's Big 3. It's a crash just east of Deer Park Avenue. in Suffolk County. So you're very slow there. And there's eastbound and westbound delay on the Northern State Parkway right by IU Willits Road. And that's causing a delay on the northbound side of the Meadowbrook coming up from Old Country Road because that's a disabled vehicle knocking down a lane, actually. Eastbound on the Northern State Parkway right around Roslyn Road and heading past that area of Searingtown Road, you do have a delay there because of a disabled vehicle. I would stick with the LIE. Even the Southern State Parkway is moving well. Now, if you're on the Bronx or driving in the Bronx on the eastbound side of the Cross Bronx, right around Jerome Avenue, there's a crash over by Webster and Jerome Avenue slowing you down. And that's what's causing the inbound delay at the George Washington Bridge. You're going to need about 25 to 30 minutes now heading inbound. Unfortunately, the outbound side is wide open. Inbound Lincoln and Holland are 15 minutes. Overturned vehicle on the Western Spur. You're dealing with delays north and south by Route 3. I would go with the Eastern Spur, but that's slow southbound. Entree Ferro, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM.
And straight now to the AccuWeather forecast. Here's meteorologist Brian Thompson.
Yeah, Donna, as the cold persists, it's going to be an increasingly windy night tonight, also an increasingly cloudy night, too. We've already started to see some high clouds drifting in from the south. That will continue through tonight. So a low 14 in the city, single digits in most suburbs. AccuWeather real field temperatures falling to 0 to 10 below later tonight. As this big storm passes by well to our east tomorrow, the ones impacting the Carolinas, parts of Virginia with snow today. The snow is going to largely miss us. Maybe a few flurries toward the east end of Long Island, but that's about it. The main impact locally will be the wind. Winds gusting 35 to 40 miles per hour in and around the city as clouds try to break for some sun, high 24. Real field temps no higher than the single digits. And by Monday and Tuesday, we do see a return to sunshine and some slightly warmer weather. Highs back up to near the freezing mark both days. Mostly sunny and 23 right now in Midtown. We're going down to 14. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Brian Thompson on New York's weather station. 1010 wins on 92.3 FM.
Okay, we admit it. It's not looking like a championship season for the Nets. Far from it, in fact. But Brooklyn's future is looking pretty bright thanks to a record-breaking rookie. Nets guard Yegor Jomin hit a three-pointer in his 34th straight game last night, which is a new rookie record in the NBA.
8 to shoot. Jomin. Good! Oh, from Provo! Nets lead by 13.
Chris Carino with the call on the Yes Network. Jomin has also set team rookie records for the most three-pointers in one game and the most games with 5 or more threes. He needs 61 more three-pointers before the season ends to set that franchise record for rookies as well. Jomin finished the game with a career-high 25 points and 10 rebounds as the Nets outlasted Utah 109-99. From the refined art galleries of the Upper East Side to the jazz clubs of Harlem, we are New York's all-news station.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Good afternoon. About 24 degrees right now at 4:20. I'm Donna Vaughn, and here's what's happening. No let up in this frosty forecast. A cold weather advisory in effect straight through to tomorrow morning. We'll check in with AccuWeather just ahead. Well, from Giants co-owner Steve Tisch to billionaire Elon Musk, the wealthy and well-connected are showing up in the latest Epstein Files document dump. Something is going on in Iran where explosions were reported today just as U.S. military ships arrived in the region. The controversial immigration roundups in Minnesota will continue for now. A judge has refused to halt the raids while the issue goes to court. And in 1010 Wins Entertainment, an AI fail for Ariana Grande's new Vogue cover, which showed her with 6 fingers on one hand before it was quickly fixed. Well, the Rangers are skating against the Penguins this afternoon. Later tonight, the Islanders host Nashville. The Devils visit the Senators. AccuWeather says skies clouding up tonight, low 14 in Midtown, single digits in many suburbs overnight. Wins News Time 421. Let's get you where you need to go with the help of Andre Ferro.
Yeah, we got some big trouble on Long Island. Here's what we see on Long Island's Big 3. Westbound Northern State Parkway. Looks like they're holding traffic right by Glen Cove Road. Looks like a crash. I'm seeing some police department activity, EMS activity, and even some fire department activity. Again, it's westbound Northern State Parkway right by Glen Cove Road, and that's causing delays on the westbound side of the Northern State Parkway. That's going to start building up all the way back to Post Avenue, and the northbound side of the Meadowbrook is now slow heading up from Old Country Road. So just give that some time as you travel in that area. The eastbound Northern State Parkway is also busy right by Shelter Rock Road. Westbound LIE have delays Little Neck Parkway to the Queens border. Now, if you're traveling in Suffolk County, that ongoing police activity and investigation over by the Smith Haven Mall is still out there, east and west on 347. That's causing some delays on the east and westbound side of Middle Country Road as you travel in that vicinity over by the Smith Haven Mall. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. Well, the inbound George Washington Bridge is about 25 minutes because of a crash on the Cross Bronx. Eastbound over by Webster Avenue, there's westbound delays on the Cross Bronx as well. White Plains Road to at least the Sheridan. Inbound Lincoln and Holland are around 15 minutes. Both outbound are in good shape. Working on an overturned vehicle, Western Spur, New Jersey, just south of Route 3. That's also causing northbound rubbernecking delays. The southbound side of the Eastern Spur is slow, coming down from the Vince Lombardi and passing Route 3 as well. Working on that crash in Rockland County, southbound Palisades, exit 10. You're going to need a lot of extra time there. Andre Ferro, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM.
Well, more cold weather today, chilly enough for a cold weather advisory, which won't be lifted until tomorrow morning sometime. AccuWeather meteorologist Brian Thompson says we haven't managed to get above the freezing mark in about a week now. He's got the latest on the forecast.
A cold weather advisory remains in effect on it through 10 a.m. tomorrow morning as this bitter cold continues, although we do see signs of it relaxing at least a little bit as we get into the early part of next week. But tonight, temperatures will still drop into the teens, even the single digits in many suburbs, and then the wind will pick up tomorrow. So even as temperatures do try to get into the mid-20s, AccuWeather real field temperatures probably won't be much better than the single digits. We will see some limited relief, though, into Monday and Tuesday as highs start to get back to near the freezing mark, especially by Tuesday. Donna?
Oh, Brian, it has been a long week for a few hundred power customers in Brooklyn. They lost their electricity during the big storm and still haven't gotten it back. Many haven't had any heat either.
Bed-Stuy was hit hard after the storm. Their councilman Chio Say has been talking to Con Ed.
Apparently, when ice and salt impacts different energy lines, causes an outage.
He says
we've been getting delayed updates on when power will be returned.
So he's calling for Mayor Mamdani to provide shelter resources. Meanwhile, Bed-Stuy residents like Natasha stepping up.
I'm driving around to different hardware stores to get some emergency blankets.
Another resident, Simon, says his block is
about a third older residents. One resident said to me, I've lived here 80 years and never has the power been this screwed up.
Affordability, a looming issue. Councilman Osei says not everyone can relocate on their dime. Amanda Alexander, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM in Brooklyn.
And a reminder, city officials say Bed-Stuy residents without power can go to PS 309 on Monroe Street where they can get food and water, recharge their devices. 2 warming buses are operating in the area as well. For the latest from AccuWeather on this icy cold weekend forecast, keep it locked here at 1010 wins at 92.3 FM. Well, the Justice Department has now released millions of pages of documents from the Epstein files, but Senator Chuck Schumer says it's still not enough. He points out the DOJ has claimed to have 6 million pages of documents in the Epstein files, but has only released about half that much. Despite that, a top justice official claims this is all of it.
Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, formerly Trump's personal attorney, saying the White House had no oversight here and no documents were withheld to protect the president.
I can assure that we complied with the statute, we complied with the act, and there is no, we did not protect President Trump, we didn't protect or not protect anybody.
Correspondent Olivia Rubin. Schumer also calls the release slow and incomplete and accuses the Trump administration of continuing to hide the truth from Americans more than a month after the deadline came and went for all the Epstein files to be made public. Now, this latest document dump includes messages between Epstein and several rich and well-connected friends of the late sex offender. That includes Elon Musk, who asked when Epstein would host the wildest parties on his private island. That's a quote. And also Giants co-owner Steve Tisch, who discussed being set up by Epstein with various women. A statement from Tisch insists they only talked about adult women and, quote, I never took him up on his offer.
Good afternoon. I'm Ashok Kabbalah. Multiple explosions have been reported in Iran. Officials there say one is being investigated and the other was from a gas leak. This comes as the U.S. is sending military ships to the area to put more pressure on Iran over its nuclear program.
The world is bracing to see if President Trump will use the force that he's amassed near Iran. The aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln, and 6 destroyers are within striking distance. Yesterday, the president told reporters that he believes Iran wants wants a deal, but it's very hard, frankly, to see the country accepting his demands to give up its nuclear program and cap its missile arsenal.
Patrick Reevell reporting Iran's military says it'll conduct military drills in the Strait of Hormuz over the next few days, which will be closely watched by the U.S. Wins News Time, 4:31. Let's get you where you need to go. Here's Andre Farrow.
And some better news on Long Island. Here's what we see on Long Island's Big Three. We were holding traffic. They were holding traffic on the westbound side of the Northern State Parkway right by Glen Cove Road. Looks like everything is off to the shoulder at least now. Take it slow as you pass the police activity. As you travel westbound, it's going to be slow on the Northern State Parkway just west of Post Avenue. And if you're traveling on the northbound side of the Meadowbrook, that's going to be slow as well coming up from Old Country Road. Doing better on the LIE and Northern State Parkways between that area of Roslyn Road and the Queens border now. The westbound Southern is slow by Peninsula Boulevard. Working on that crash in Suffolk County. Eastbound Northern State Parkway just east of Deer Park Avenue. That is going to be a busy ride. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. The inbound George Washington Bridge is slower because of the crash on the eastbound Cross Bronx right around Webster and Jerome Avenue. So you're dealing with a heavy delay, at least 25 minutes across the span of the George Washington Bridge. Outbound, the span looks clear. It's getting there. The issue, it's slow from White Plains Road on the Cross Bronx all the way to the Alexander Hamilton Bridge. Inbound Lincoln and Holland, maybe you need around 15 minutes. Western Spur, there's some debris now. We had an overturned vehicle, but you're dealing with slowdown south of Route 3 on the Western Spur in New Jersey, passing MetLife Stadium. And the Eastern Spur is also busy. That picked up extra volume as people are using that to get around the accident on the Western Spur. So the Eastern Spur is slow, passing Route 3 and heading down towards the Mixing Bowl. Better news in Rockland County. The crash on the southbound side of the Palisades over by exit 10 has cleared. And the crash in New Rochelle, southbound 95, has also cleared. So you're doing better there at least. Andre Farrow, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM.
And now the AccuWeather forecast with meteorologist Brian Thompson.
Well, Ashok, we've had a pretty cold afternoon. Temperatures have been in the low to mid-20s. The wind has not been too much of a factor yet, although it is going to be increasing as we head into tonight. It's also going to be increasingly cloudy as it stays cold through the night. Low 14 in the city. It will drop into the single digits in many suburbs. And the AccuWeather real field temperature, which is actually pretty close to the air temperature right now with the light winds, those real fields will fall to about 0 to 10 below tonight as the wind starts to pick up. As this nor'easter passes by well off to our east tomorrow, might brush the east end of Long Island with a few flurries, but that's about it. The main impact from the storm locally is going to be the wind. Winds gusting 35 to 40 miles per hour. Also could have some coastal flooding and beach erosion with the onshore flow. High 24 tomorrow. Real field temps no better than the single digits. We might even see some breaks of sun by later in the day. Down to 16 tomorrow night under a partly cloudy sky, and then not quite as cold Monday and Tuesday with more in the way of sunshine and highs back into the low 30s. 23 right now. It's mostly sunny in Midtown, going down to 14 tonight. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Brian Thompson on New York's weather station. 1010 wins on 92.3 FM.
Former CNN anchor Don Lemon has been released after he was arrested and charged with interfering with a religious service during an ICE protest in Minnesota.
Attorney General Pam Bondi said it was her decision to make the arrest.
You have the right to worship freely and safely. And if I haven't been clear already, if you violate that sacred right, we are coming after you.
Federal agents arrested Lemon in Los Angeles Thursday night, along with 3 other people in Minnesota, including a local journalist.
I have spent my entire career covering the news. I will not stop now.
Ian Lee reporting. Lemon insists he was there to document the demonstration for a news story. Immigration raids will continue in Minnesota after a judge declined to pause operations while a lawsuit goes through. State and local officials argued the deployment violates constitutional limits on federal power. The court's ruling allows Operation Metro Surge to continue while the case proceeds, despite accusations of civil rights violations and rising tensions. After ICE officers shot and killed Renee Good and Alex Preddy, the investigation into Preddy's death continues, and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was asked today if body cam footage will be released.
There's a lot of discussion going on with that. The FBI is leading the investigation, and as that goes forward, that'll be at their discretion.
The Trump administration has sent mixed signals after initially vowing to double down on the operation in the wake of Preddy's death last week, calling this 37-year-old ICU nurse a, quote, domestic terrorist. A loaded gun was found on Preddy. Eyewitness video of the shooting showed he had been holding up his cell phone.
The News Watch never stops. This is 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Skies are clear. It is 23 degrees at 4:40. Good afternoon. I'm Ashok Kabbalah, and here's what's happening. At least 13 deaths in the city from this stretch of dangerously cold temps. We'll get the latest from AccuWeather. The city is rolling out thousands of licenses for street vendors after council members voted to override a veto from the former mayor. Atlanta's FBI boss is out of a job after questioning a move made by the Trump administration. Israel's military says the strikes that killed 30 Palestinians were targeting 4 Hamas commanders and weapons depots, and researchers are concluding that a nice walk every day will greatly improve your health. Not even that long a walk. The Rangers are trailing the Penguins. Islanders host the Predators at 7. The Devils are in Ottawa. Wins news time, 4:41. Let's get you where you need to go. Here's Andre Farrow.
Okay, let's go back to Long Island. Here's what we see on Long Island's Big Three. We still have delays on the westbound side of the Northern State Parkway. We had an earlier crash right by Glen Cove Road, so there still is some residual delays there as you make your way westbound, passing Ellison Avenue in the Westbury area, and the northbound side of the Meadowbrook is feeling the brunt of this as well. Now, if you're traveling on the westbound Southern State Parkway, common delays on a Saturday evening, passing the Meadowbrook heading towards Peninsula Boulevard. Eastbound, you're slow by the Wantagh Merge. What else is new there? LIE is in good shape, at least. We do have that trouble spot in Suffolk County with the police investigation ongoing over by the Smith Haven Mall, east and west on Route 347 between Moriches Road and Middle Country Road. So that's why the traffic is even slower on the east and westbound side of Middle Country Road as you travel in that vicinity. Now, if you're traveling in Westchester County, look out for slowdowns southbound on the Hutch, passing Weaver Street and heading down towards Eastchester. A better ride on the New England Thruway for you. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. The inbound George Washington Bridge is slower because of an earlier crash eastbound over by Webster Avenue. That remains a 20-minute inbound delay. Outbound, you have problems on the westbound cross Bronx. There's a crash right around White Plains Road and big delays by the Sheridan round trip. Southbound Bronx River Parkway is acting up because of that as well. Inbound Lincoln and Holland, just around 15 minutes at the approaches. Western Spur, there's some debris passing Route 3 and MetLife Stadium on the roads. That's why you're tapping the brakes. That earlier overturn has been moved to the shoulder. Andre Farrow, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
Well, the bad news, more cold. The good news, the storm tomorrow will be nothing like last weekend.
Ashok, after a very cold week across the area, we are going to see some relief as we get toward Monday and Tuesday as temperatures at least try to get closer to the freezing mark. But certainly through the remainder of the weekend, it is going to remain bitterly cold. Temperatures dropping into the teens, even the single digits tonight. And the wind is going to get pretty gusty into tomorrow on the backside of a powerful storm. It's going to be well off to our east. The vast majority of the snow staying off to our east. But we will see winds gusting to 35 miles per hour with a high of just 24 tomorrow. AccuWeather real field temperatures will be in the single digits much of the time. But temperatures do get back into the 30s Monday and Tuesday. Ashok?
Meteorologist Brian Thompson. There have been at least 13 deaths in the city so far from this cold stretch and more across the country as another storm is taking aim down south.
This winter weather has proven deadly, with officials saying more than 100 people have died from Texas through the Northeast. Here in Virginia Beach, the city says that it has plows and trucks on hand and ready to work around the clock, and contractors on standby, depending on how bad this storm gets.
That's Christiane Cordero reporting from Virginia. On Staten Island, firefighters were busy last night fighting 2 fires and the cold. The first blaze broke out around 11:30 at a home on Elverton Avenue in Great Kills. A firefighter and a resident both hospitalized with minor injuries. In less than 2 hours after that, another house fire broke out on Bard Avenue in West Brighton. 2 residents were treated at the scene. Both fires went to 3 alarms. Investigators on scene today trying to determine the cause. We can expect to see more vendors on city streets now that the city council has loosened tight restrictions that were in place for decades.
Former Mayor Eric Adams vetoed the expansion during his term, but some council members recently overrode that.
The lack of permits and licenses have been the biggest challenge.
Muhammad Ataya there, managing director for the Street Vendor Project. Now, strict street vendor rules date back to the 70s and 80s, but he says Adams didn't help much either. So he has a message.
It was really disappointing to see you vetoing every single bill that helps the street vendors.
He says hopefully
next time he's in politics, he hires the right people next to him to do the right thing.
He thanked Mayor Mamdani for supporting street vendors. Amanda Alexander, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
A Nassau County police officer has been killed in a crash in Smithtown. Cops say Patricia Espinoza, 42, was off duty driving along the Nesconset Highway when an alleged drunk driver ran a red light, plowing into her car around 6 this morning. Behind the wheel, Matthew Smith, 20, from Hauppauge, who was taken to a hospital along with his passenger. Both are expected to survive. Smith has been charged with drunk driving, could face more charges. Officer Espinoza had worked at the 5th Precinct in Elmont. Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman says he's heartbroken, ordered flags at half staff from Monday until her funeral. Most of the government will be funded through the fall, with a deal reached last night on Capitol Hill.
If it's only a few days, the impact should be minimal, and the good news here is that food assistance programs like SNAP and WIC are already funded through September. Now, the deal that's been reached in the Senate and backed by President Trump, it strips Homeland Security funding out of the broader package, but it does provide the department 2 weeks of funding, giving lawmakers time to negotiate reforms to rein in federal immigration enforcement.
Correspondent Selena Wong. Some of those reforms include banning ICE officers from wearing masks, requiring them to wear body cameras. An FBI shakeup in Georgia following the 2020 election interference case. The special agent in charge of the FBI's Atlanta field office has reportedly been removed after questioning the Trump administration's renewed focus on the case. MS Now reports that Agent Paul Brown raised concerns about unsubstantiated voter fraud claims in Fulton County and declined to pursue election-related searches. His removal came days before federal agents seized about 700 boxes of election records from the county's elections office. Fulton County leaders call the raid political retribution, insisting the 2020 election was fair and secure. New Israeli airstrikes in Gaza have killed at least 30 people, despite the ceasefire.
These were Israel's heaviest airstrikes on Gaza in weeks, and some of the deadliest since that ceasefire was agreed back in October. At least 31 Palestinians were killed, many of them women and children. According to Gaza's health ministry, at least several children were killed in just one strike on a tent encampment where displaced people were sheltering. Another strike hit an apartment building and another a police station.
Correspondent Patrick Revel. Israel's military says the strikes targeted 4 Hamas commanders and weapons depots. The strike in retaliation to what Israel calls ceasefire violations by Hamas a day earlier when they appeared from a tunnel in an Israeli-controlled area of Rafah. Tomorrow, Israel is expected to reopen the Rafah crossing along the border with Egypt for the first time in nearly 2 years. So how many people do you know who've moved to the Carolinas over the past few years? I know several. And new census data shows Americans are picking the Carolinas as the hottest destination. North Carolina gained more than 84,000 new residents last year, the most in the country, while South Carolina posted the highest overall growth rate at 1.5%. Florida's appeal has cooled, dropping to 8th in domestic migration due to rising costs, high insurance, quality of life concerns. Smaller cities and access to mountains and beaches are drawing younger Americans to the Carolinas. Indeed, I have visited Durham a bunch of times to see those friends who moved there, and it's a really nice area. Walking, we all know here in the city how good it is, right? Gotta tell other people, and we'll tell you why next. But first, Wins News Time 4:51. Let's get you where you need to go. Here's Andre Farrow.
Seeing big delays on the Brooklyn Bridge, Brooklyn bound, and what's not helping are the westbound BQE delays right in front of the Brooklyn Bridge, passing Flushing Avenue, and the inbound Gowanus is heavy from 39th Street up to the Brooklyn Bridge as well. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. Around 15 minutes in at the Lincoln and Holland, it's mostly the approach that's slow, not the actual Lincoln and Holland tunnels itself. Both outbound are in very good shape. We're working on debris on the western spur south of MetLife Stadium. I'm not talking about the Jets roster. I'm talking about just some debris that's on the road heading southbound passing Route 3 where we had an earlier incident. Again, you're going to need some time, so go to the eastern spur. Now, if you're traveling at the inbound George Washington Bridge, that's about 15 minutes. Outbound's going to cost you some time on the westbound side of the Cross Bronx where we have a crash right around White Plains Road and passing the Sheridan. That is super slow. Now, if you're using the